which just did me in. I mean, to this day, that is still my unicorn. In the days before the internet, or maybe there was the internet in the rest of the world, but Maine was 10 years behind, so we didn't have it there yet, I would get the DuPont Registry and other automotive magazines, and I had compiled this list of where exotic car dealers were in Boston. I had assembled an incredible list. I don't know how I found some of them. I mean, some of them were obscure repair shops and body shops, but I created this itinerary where we could go see all of them, and I would make my dad take me down to Boston, and we'd go around to every single one of them. You know, my poor dad was exhausted after just driving all day, but he loved doing it because, you know, I loved it. It was just an absolute blast going to, you know, Ferrari of New England, Herb Chambers, Mercedes. I walked in there, and they had a Mercedes and a Porsche dealer there. And I walk in, the salesman goes, "Oh, are you here to see the McLaren F1? And I'm like, what? There's what? McLaren? What? There's an F1? And he's like, "Oh no, it's down at like Rhode Island now, but the owner has one and sometimes it's here." I'm like, why? Why did you even have to tease me with that? You know, thankfully I did see one a few years later, but he like made my day and ruined it at the same time in the span of 1 minute. I also somehow found out about this rally called the Forza Milla V12 put on by the Taylors. And again, I don't know how I found out about this stuff. I was a desperate yet resourceful young kid who just wanted anything to do with cars possible. But I found out that they came through Maine. So I would like literally stalk them. I got on their mailing list, so I'd, you know, every quarter or so I'd get this flyer in the mail for their rallies, and I would, again, I don't know how I found out where their stops were going to be, but maybe I just called them up and asked them or something. And so I found out what hotel they were going to be at on what day. So again, I'd have my mom take me up there, and that was just heaven on earth, because that was my first experience getting to see supercars in the wild, actually driving, especially growing up in Maine without access to it, but even just like a generational thing. Like, kids now have so much access to caffeine and octane, cars and coffee, all these different things. You have Instagram. There's 12-year-olds that know who all the exotic car owners are in town, and we've got all these spotters and things like that. So it's just like, it's almost like it's devalued the sense of excitement when you see a car, because hypercars abound and they're more accessible through the mediums we have now. And back then it wasn't. You know, you had to make some effort to go see a car. So that was a big deal for me, because I had to put in all this legwork just to see a Ferrari, and it made it infinitely more worthwhile and more valuable. And I remember that on one of the rallies there was 2 F50s, which just did me in. I mean, to this day, that is still my unicorn next to the McLaren F1. And there was a red one and there was a black one. I didn't have VINwiki then. If I did, I would know the story. But I'm pretty sure the black one was the same one that was sold by Mike Sheehan with about 50,000 miles, and then subsequently wrecked by the gentleman in New York who allegedly got carbon monoxide poisoning because of a cracked header, and then was sold through a salvage auction and went overseas. And I think there was only 4 black F50s total in the US, and probably the other 3 of them don't get driven much at all. I know 2 of them definitely don't, but I'm figuring if this one was on the Forza Milla V12 and it was raining dirty and it got driven a lot way back then, it's probably the same car. I made Sheehan an offer for it when he had it, because it was attainable and it was before they went up in value. I think he was asking like $650 and I offered him like $5, and it had just had 50 grand worth of work done, like full engine rebuild, everything. It was fresh. Oh, yeah. And they just look so good in black. A black F50 is it for me. Yeah, and then I bid on the salvage auction too, and this was like a month before they started going nuts, and I bid up to like, I don't know, $250, because from the research I had done, the tub was fine, and somebody bid, it sold for like $4 something, And I'm like, they're out of their minds. And then the market went through the roof. Like, I was like, I'll sell half my inventory and do this just because this will be the only shot I'll probably have at an F50 unless I come up with a brilliant idea that makes me millions of dollars.